show, we actually were looking to try and go live with our guest, do a little bit of comedy, and then bring him on. And then something strange happened. Our program that we use just automatically aired it live. It told me it was recording it, and it did. It also just happened to air it live, which it did not inform me that it was doing. Haha, now you record. Fuck you. So, here's what we're doing. We're piecing those things together. We got a short little monologue for you, but we got an amazing interview with a spectacular human being. And I had a cold open about how Donald Trump's an idiot about the whole Lysol and shoot you rays up your ass and that sort of thing will rescue you. But yeah, it just kind of seems like stupid at this point. So we'll just say he's an idiot. And guess what? You're watching Really Late Night. What's up, everybody? This is Raph Esparza. Welcome to Early Late Night, a show that airs sometimes, apparently, when the host doesn't even know. I know the world sucks sometimes, but don't worry, I read the news, so you don't have to. Our top story today. Donald Trump says that his daily press briefings are not worth the time or the effort, which oddly is the same thing he said about Eric. 2 cats in New York have contracted COVID-19, becoming the first reported pets in the US to catch the virus. At least that's what they said to get rid of the humans they've been spending the last 45 days with. Netflix announced that they added another 16 million subscribers because of the coronavirus. COVID has been so instrumental in drawing people to the subscription network that the virus has already been offered a stand-up comedy special. And it's still gonna make more than Monique. And finally, rapper MIA says that she'd choose death over a vaccine, which coincidentally is the same thing people said about her last album. And that'll do it for our monologue. All right, let's do the walkover. Hey, thank you so much for watching this episode. It's kind of a weird, truncated version of what you guys normally know, love, and respect from what we do on this show. So, hey, who cares if it's all out of order? You know what, maybe we just do it like this. Netflix, it's a la carte. Take out the monologue if you don't want it, the cold open if you want it, and the guest if you're feeling generous. But today's guest is pretty spectacular. Ladies and gents, I want you to find out more about this gentleman. His name is Frank Castillo. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to find out more about this next gentleman. He's amazing. Check out this interview with Frank Castillo that aired apparently live, unbeknownst to me. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm excited for our guest today. You may know him from roast battles. You may know him from the comedy circuit out here in Los Angeles. He's also making the rounds right now, seeing all of his family members during Zoom. So maybe he's crashed one of yours. I'm not quite sure. But I got to say something about this guest before we even bring him on. Not only does he know many of the same people that I do, which is great, but he was also just about willing to do this on his birthday before telling me, like, hey, man, could we do it another day? I mean, it is kind of my birthday. So to me, that is a human being of the highest caliber. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show, Frank Castillo.
Hilarious. What up, man? Good to see you.
Very good to see you as well. You've been pre-gaming a little bit, so you are in rare form and ready to go, I can tell.
Absolutely. 420 is a big holiday for me. It's right near my birthday. So I get all the, birthday money, and I get to go just have fun.
Do your family members ever, or friends, I guess I should say, try to get you 420 products for your birthday?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I've trained them enough now. It took like years, because at first they'd be like, what do you want? And I'd be like, this thing, or, money's fine, because I could pick. Like, I'd have to try to figure out a way to tell them that I'm just going to buy weed. But now that it's legal, I can just be like, hey, buy me this thing, or I could tell my dad to buy me a bong that he likes that reminds me of him or whatever. Him with me. So yeah, he actually bought me a sriracha bong. So it was pretty funny.
What?
Yeah.
Yo, do you have that right now? Because I need to see it.
Right now.
Hold on. Okay. See, I'm not a huge hot sauce guy, but I am obsessed with hot ones, as I think most of America is. So to see a sriracha bong is a true combination of multiple generations and not just Hispanicness. Oh my.
Yeah.
So So when you come down to figuring out when is the appropriate time to use a sriracha bong, because sometimes you need it for certain
Every
foods.
time,
Any
every
time is a good.
It's so well, because I'm from San Jose, so like it's a huge melting pot of just different cultures.
Mm.
So like you would go to like Mexican restaurants and see sriracha bottles. You'd go to like Thai restaurants, see sriracha bottles. So it wasn't just at Vietnamese restaurants. Like every like you go to chicken joints, they'd have sriracha bottles. Like it was a thing that just the whole city.
Yo, that's true love in your family. So I have all the utmost respect for your dad for being able to pull that one off. I was going to say, my next question was obviously going to be like, has there been one memorable one? But holy shit, that's the lottery of them.
Yeah, no, it feels pretty cool too because my dad was he always just now he can like openly joke and call and make jokes about me smoking weed. He calls me Smokey and shit, Cheech and Chong, like all the jokes. But like now it's something we can actually connect on because he loves drinking, he loves beer, he loves having fun. I'm not a big drinker, but this is kind of like my vice, so it's nice. I could get stoned, he can have a few beers, we just hang out and have fun.
Well, you were telling me off air that you've been making an effort to try and see your family members a lot during the coronavirus pandemic, and you've been doing a lot of Zooms with them.
Yeah. So it was my birthday, and all my cousins are now having kids, so they're in their 30s. All their kids are like, tech savvy, the age where they're all millennials and stuff. So I figured out how to like if we can get a big Zoom call going, and we would all just hang out and just drink. So it's so funny to see all these different family members, just different generations of our whole family, getting all shit faced at different places in the California. Felt like the Brady Bunch. It was all just all of us running into screen, out of screen, all drunk. It was pretty great.
Who's the most surprising member of your family to see drink right now?
The most surprising member to see drink?
Because, as a kid, you look up at them, and it's not like it's a secret they drink, or it's not anything weird, but, like, who's the person that you have a beer with now that you go, like, oh, this is different. This feels different than going to a bar with a friend.
Oh, it's so funny because it's more like who doesn't drink in my family. Like it was like that. It's the complete opposite where it's like if we're not drinking, that's when it's like, oh, this is weird. I don't really have a lot of those moments like drinking or hanging out with my. It's smoking weed, like smoking weed with like my uncle or like my cousins or like. That's where it's like, oh, this is interesting because that was really the only still taboo thing in my family where, you would still get in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
I had a cousin who went to jail because he would always grow weed. Now he works at like a dispensary and he makes good money. So it's just kind of funny now because our family would talk so much shit about him. And then now he's like, haha, I could pay for a house. And it's very, very, it's a tables have turned.
It's always nice when there's the Rosa Parks of weed in every family.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like, listen, I gave up a lot. You didn't understand the times.
Exactly.
Man, that's...
Grandma hated me in my 20s. But I got cousins, like young cousins who are like in their 20s now or like turning 19, 20, who will be like, hey, can we smoke weed together? Like I've never smoked weed and I want to smoke weed with you because I know you smoke weed. And I'm like, oh, dope. Yeah, this is cool.
And it's so great because... I've never smoked weed, but that has always been my demo. Like, if you take it back to every class I've ever had, I was always in the back with everybody who was a stoner, and everybody assumed that I smoked copious amounts of weed because of how chill I usually am. And I was like, no, but, like, I also don't care. Like, if they smoke, like, who gives a fuck, dude? Like, let them do their thing.
Yeah, you're like, I'm like this natural.
Yeah, well... That's what I told people is we always joke. They're like, man, don't you ever want to know? And I was like, I'm pretty sure I have a good idea of what I'm like before and after, if not. Man, just to see another bong, though, after seeing the Sriracha bong, my brain.
I got a whole collection. I got this one. Mm-hmm. Then I got this one. Yeah. Then I have my electronic one that does concentrates. That way you don't have to the torch. Have you seen the torch? Has anyone ever pulled the torch out on you?
Yes.
Where they do dabs, then it's like, okay, now it feels like we're doing crack. Yeah. If your friend that does like, that's the one where like, if you do concentrates, it's not hardcore drugs, but it's close enough to make people that do hardcore drugs like excited. Where they're like, oh sweet. And then you're like, oh, it's more weed, and they're like, oh, fuck this. Let's just do crack,
Right.
like. So I had to get an electric one because it doesn't feel as like creepy when you got a fucking flame.
All right, all right. Let's take it back to the base. If you say it's been something that's been long with your family and your friends, do you remember the first time you smoked weed?
Yes, it was with my cousin. So what had happened was I had gone to like a party. My cousin, when my cousin was older than me, he was like in high school. He was like a senior. I think I was like maybe like a freshman or a sophomore, and he was like going to juvie and just doing dumb shit. So we got invited to a party that like I was like one of the young kids that was there. It was all older kids just having beers. Like someone rented a hotel room for New Year's Eve. So we're all up there, and the party ends up getting busted because they were busting a party that was upstairs, but a bunch of kids ran away from our room. So the cops came and were like, what's going on? There's a bunch of kids there. So they kind of lined us all up, and we're like, all right, start checking everyone's IDs. And then halfway through it, they're like, all right, you kids get the fuck out of here. So as we were leaving, when I had gotten to the party, I had put my jacket down. So I went to go look for my jacket, and I couldn't find it, and it was rolled up underneath one of like the beds. So I was like, oh, someone put something in here. This feels weird and lumpy. So like, I put it under my arm. We get to my cousin's car. We get in there. I open up my jacket, and it's like fucking full of weed. It's like an ounce of weed, like a lot of weed. Like it was someone's weed that they brought for the party. And so I was like, what do we do with it? And my cousin was like, we fucking smoke it. So we smoked. We didn't smoke the whole ounce, but like we smoked a little bit. And I remember it was out of a bathroom roll, and we watched Chappelle for the first time, and I laughed into a bowl of Reese's Puff cereal for like an hour and a half. And I was like, I love this. This is what life's about.
Wow, that's one of the best stories I've ever heard, because like that's akin to like the whole Pink Floyd experience of somebody being like, this is gonna change your life, man. Like that weed, you with Chappelle. Like, there's not a more perfect scenario for a comedian, honestly.
Oh yeah. Some people have bad first time experiences, or they're like, I didn't feel anything. It was like I got stoned with like my favorite cousin, so it was like, all right, I feel safe.
Yeah, that's fair. That is fair. I always ask people that because to me, I've now gotten to that point where people aren't afraid to tell you things. When you were growing up, people didn't want to mention any of that sort of a thing. But now people are like, I can't shut up about my ayahuasca trip. Oh my God, it was so great. And I'm like, oh, no, I'm good. I don't need to hear about you throwing up for 2 hours. With perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Yep, no, that's cool. Well, let's talk about this. Okay, dude, first of all, I know there's something in the works. You've got multiple projects that you have kind of cooking up right now. But tell me a little bit about your experience on Roast Battle, because the glee that you had calling another white person One Tree Hill over here, it cuts to the core of me, because I'm just like, I just know how great that feels. So tell me about that experience, dude. How did it feel to do that show?
I mean, it was great. It was a lot of fun. It was definitely, it was, I don't know. It definitely didn't feel real. I was thinking, because I was still checking IDs. I was very much still working at the Comedy Store, like a door guy, making minimum wage. I think I told, like, when I won, I had like $5 in my bank account. Like, I had taken time off work, missed shifts, because I because I was like, oh shit, this is dope. But I also like, I'm still fucking poor. But it was. It was great because it was just fun. I took it like one battle at a time. My wife was so funny because she was like, I thought you were gonna leave me, and I was like, what do you mean? She was like, I've never seen you just so. She was like, I guess focused. She was like, you were just like, no one could really say anything to you. No, you weren't really like phased. You were just so focused. And I was like, I just didn't want to like get in your way or anything. I was like, yeah. I was like, I mean, because that's what it was. I was like writing all the time. It was me, Jay Light, Pat Barker, Dan Nolan, because they let us have writers for the later rounds and stuff. Mm-hmm. So like all the other people they paid us extra to pay them and stuff because they wanted because certain people that battled had never done it before. They were like, famous people, and then like me and Matthew Bouchard, who were like, this is all we have. Like we need to do this. So we would just sit in my living room and just write. We'd look at different angles and shit like that. Like we really like planned it out. We had my whole wall looked like a serial killer. This room had pictures of people and shit. And it was just great. It was a lot of fun, man. I remember I got the call when I was at work answering phones. Jeff Ross and everybody was on the call. And so I was just like, I need like 3 weeks off. And then I would write, and then I would go and pop in at shows and just run roast jokes and hold a picture of them. And I was just running that. And it was great because my dad got to be there the night before the finals. And he got to see me and hang out with me, and we got to go to all these different shows and stuff. And he was like, "Oh, this is dope!" It was great. It was just a lot of fun moments. It was, and then when I didn't expect to win, I was just like, I'm going to take it a battle at a time. Whatever happens, what happens. And then, but once I got to the finals, I was like, okay, there might be a chance. I think I'm going to win this. And then, I did and shit. It was crazy.
Okay.
It was a great experience.
Let's hold here.
Well, one second. I was still very much a young comic in a situation that was just not way over my head, but it was like, oh, this is wild.
Well, I want to get some clarifying notes here, because you mentioned that you would go run jokes, which is not uncommon for when you're going to go appear on something big. So that makes sense. But that you would hold up photos of the guy to be like, hey, listen, he's not here, but just look at this toast. Like, I'm going to go in on this. Like, that's that. And then you would check from the audience's reaction of that.
Yeah. I'd go up and I'd just explain it. Be like, hey, I'm doing this thing. It's like my first time on TV. I'm roasting this person, and I'm going to say these jokes. I just need to let you, I just know if these are funny or not. That's it.
Yeah.
And judging by the reaction, I was like, oh, okay, cool. And it ended up being so fun because it was like, I love the roasts, and when working at the store, I would watch, them come and do that. They would run roast jokes. I watched Jeff Ross run roast jokes. I watch all these people run jokes. So it's like, oh, it can be done. And I just showed him a picture, and I did it, and it was like, oh, this is the same reaction. And that was the other big thing with the TV was that was a TV audience. It wasn't like the Belly Room Comedy Club audience. So it was like you had to be mean, but you had to be really funny and clever, and you couldn't be too mean, otherwise they'd get all like weird about it.
Yeah, I run a risk of, I do jokes of athletes to athletes, and there's always a sense of they can really hurt you,
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But I've always been of the mindset of, listen, I'm not going to do a joke on a show that I wouldn't do to your face. And I think the surprising thing that we have from most people is I do it to their face. Yeah. And I think there's a value of transparency and responsibility that you go like, listen, dude, this is the gig. If you can't do this here, why do it?
Yeah. So
I've always seen it from that perspective. I was asking Jay Light this, and I'm going to ask you because I think there's insight that he gave. But what is the key to a good approach for roast battle?
Like writing a roast joke or just going into it?
I would say, well, let's start with the writing, and then we can go into going in, because it sounds like the two have something each to them.
Yeah. I think writing a roast joke, I think as long as it's based in a little truth, I think that goes a long way, especially when you're just looking at the person. And then after that, it's okay to get weird with it. So it's like you find something in their looks or something factual about them, something truthful about them, and then you could be weird with the punchline, like, however that may be.
Fair enough.
So that's what brings them in, is the truth part to it. Like, certain jokes, like my favorite jokes are the jokes that someone does against me or someone does against them. It's a joke about someone that's so good that the audience realizes something that the person that the joke's about didn't even know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they all realize together, it's like, oh, damn, he does look like that. Or like, oh, that's really, oh, shit, you're right. And then it's like that, when you have a joke that's that caliber, you're like, oh, wow. So I think those are jokes that are based in truth, but also get to be a little weird and fun. And I think going into a roast battle, aside from like the performance aspect of like, just having fun, it's like when you're up there, you're already up there. You wrote all the jokes, swing 100% with the jokes. You can't like. There's been too many times I've seen people like get nervous and change up their stuff, or like they don't swing with all confidence. Having fun's a big one because I've seen people that lose when it comes to the writing aspect, but totally win off of just confidence, performance, just the riffing on the inside, just being fun and just being a likable battler. And you can still even be unlikable and a villain. You know, I've seen such characters of comics go up, and I'm just like, oh my god, this person's a staple. This person's so funny. It's so great. Everyone's got their own style. I think finding what fits them best is very important.
Do you get asked to roast people on occasion? Because I feel like that comes with the territory.
Like in public, yeah. Friends, yes. If it's like my core friends, I'll bust balls all day.
Sure.
A lot of people ask me to roast battle still. I haven't roast battled in a while. Occasionally I might. It just depends. There's really nothing in it for me. Like I don't have that excitement for it anymore, you know? Like before it was like I have to do this because I have to get these opportunities. Now it's like my sole focus is stand-up, and I love it so much. But don't get me wrong, I love roasting. I still see it, and I'm like, my hands get all sweaty, and I'm like, oh, man, this is fun.
If I were to ask you to just roast me, and I do comedy, so it's not like I'm going to get hurt. But point blank, just what it is, you have open field to say whatever. I'm not even going to retaliate. I want to see the process happen.
Oh, I would say you just look like a Hobbit's lawyer or like an accountant or, you know. Or just like you run the union for bridge trolls, stuff like that.
That's great. See, again, I think I think there's a misconception of there are comics that get a little too sensitive to their material, and I understand when you put people in front of an audience, you know, things do change. Like people don't feel good being made fun of, and I will tell people when we do shows for any of the programs we do, I go, don't be afraid to lean into making fun of me. Like it should be your job to make this just as entertaining. But no,
I respect a person that is just like has no serious to themselves, where they're like, please, like I can take it. That just swings. I've seen so many people just get butthurt and it just goes south, and you're just like, oh damn, like oh man, he got punched in the face.
I mean,
anything.
You know, like, to me, I think that it's so hard to explain to people why it's so important to be able to laugh at yourself. You know, I make memes for a combat sport where, you know, you're making fun of real people who are competing and putting themselves out there. And so you find different ways to do it. And I tell people, I'm like, there's a difference between saying something to be a jerk and be mean, but that's not necessarily going to make it funny.
Yeah.
And it's important that the joke always land more than just being an asshole. Because if you're just being an asshole, then you're just saying shit and you think that the shock value is funny. And shock value can be funny, but for the most part, it's with super good people at that genre. So entry-level folks need not apply.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's great, dude. Oh, man, that's so... and the thing is like the only thing I would see for myself when I look at the roast battles is I immediately want to be part of the fun. Like I can't watch it without thinking like, man, if somebody was roasting me, I would just be like, I want to laugh at that because that's a good joke and be in the vibe and be in that zone, you know?
It's so much fun. It's like anytime we bring a family member or anybody to just one of those shows, and they light up. They love it because they get what it is. It's I don't know. It's just it's a very interesting, not phenomenon, but it's just to see people watch it and just get comfortable and they're like, I love this. Like I'm into this.
You know, one of the things that I saw that you don't realize how much you miss until the pandemic hits is when they were mentioning how roast battles were doing like virtual versions, and I saw Jay was just talking about that sort of a thing, and I couldn't help but think like, damn, dude, I missed that. Like now that we can't, now you want to see it 10 times more.
Yeah. I worked Tuesdays on the roast battles for like 4 or 5 years in a row, like every Tuesday. Rarely ever had it off. And then it got to the point where I stopped working the Tuesday nights just because I was, you're doing it so much. There's younger people who are hungry for spots and stuff. I was like, oh well, you can do the work now. It's time. It's time for someone else to stand at the door.
Right.
You don't be so many times and open up for so many times and then still check people's names in. Or someone above you's like, hey man, you really don't have to do this anymore. And I was like, oh yeah, but I like it. And they're like, yeah, but you don't have to. You don't have to do this anymore. I'm like, oh, I guess you're right. I guess I shouldn't. Yeah, I should just focus on the other shit. Yeah. But now, so I used to be there, but I'd still be there every Tuesday. And then I got to a point where I just coming home and going to sleep was nice. My wife was here and stuff. And then now with everything closed, I was like, oh fuck. I will never take a Tuesday for granted again. Because, dude, all of the best magical stuff that's happened to me comedy-wise has happened on a Tuesday.
That's amazing. And as a guy who used to have my live show on Tuesdays, Tuesdays aren't easy to fill. So
they are not. And you know what? But the crazy thing is, when they do get filled, those people are fucking down because you're like, yo, it's the second day of the work week, so this shit's just getting started. Right. So you either miss the weekend so much you were like, fuck it, let's go again.
That's amazing. Okay, let's talk a little bit about what else is. So I know there's a project for that. You say you've got a couple podcasts that are in the works. Describe that. And does one of them involve Roast Battle?
Yeah. So Gino from Speedweed has his own podcast studio. So there's a few of us that do podcasts there. And it's like Jeremiah Watkins, I think Kiltony films a few out of there. And then a bunch of us. Gino's family of the store, great dude. So, Roast Battle moved their shows to the live. And so the Roast Battle crew's trying to figure out some other things we could do to, kind of keep this going during the COVID. So me, Jay Light, and Brian Moses are all doing a podcast together. My bad. Moses, Jay Light, and I are doing a podcast together. It's called Out of Context Podcast. It's a lot of fun. We have a Patreon, or we have an OnlyFans on Roast Battle. That's a weekly podcast. It's kind of like Pardon the Interruption. Moses throws stories at us, and whoever has the funniest take gets a point, and then, whoever wins at the end is the crown the champion. But it's just three friends fucking around having fun. Last week was hilarious. I forgot that Africa was a continent. I was super, super stoned, and there was a lot of pressure, and I got nervous. And it was hilarious. And then I have my studio set up at home, so I'm going to be doing my own podcast. I have a weed game show I'm working on, and that's about it.
Weed game show, dude. That's where the money's at.
Yeah. I've tried pitching it, and everyone's like, this is scary. I'm like, I get it.
For now, listen, you're going to lead this charge. You're going to find your way there. I have all the confidence in the world in that. I just know that when you start to mention the possibility of a weed show to the many people that I know in networks that are looking for content, like right now, you have to be sitting back on your heels going like, bet you wish you had a weed show now, assholes.
Oh, yeah. Right? Yeah. 100%.
As it is, though, I think the first thing is, since we're going to be trying to figure out how audiences come back into mainstream things, such as sports or, even comedy clubs. I mean, the nice part about it is, I think for a while, if you have 20 people in an audience, you're going to be like, I sold out.
Yeah.
Look at that, bitch. I sold out this comedy club. And people are going to be like, yo, bro, COVID, you didn't do shit.
I think they would. What I think is going to happen is I think comedy clubs cut their capacities in half. And if you're a comic, you either got to do more shows or they do earlier shows,
So here's a couple things. One of the first things that kind of oddly made me go like, yeah, I want to chat with you is after getting the experience of doing Jay's podcast where you talk about a movie you hate. You had one that I didn't hate on surface level. I just thought it was bad. But for somebody to pick Wanted as a movie that they wanted to go against, can you tell me and summarize what your beef is with Wanted?
Oh, it was just the comic book was just way better. It was just so much to the story. And it was so much better than like I don't know. I think the way they did the Wanted one, like the big twist was, that it was like, oh, his dad was trying to save him and stuff and all that jazz. Um, they just, the way they did in the comic book was just way better. You find out, and just the way they trained him, and I also get why they couldn't have done it, because in the comic book, all the villains team up and literally kill all the superheroes and then rewrite history with this alien technology. And so the beauty in it is, like, there's scenes where, like, some of the villains created new lives for the old superheroes just to fuck with them and, like, put them in their own personal prisons. So, like, the old, like, Batman and Robin, like, characters, like the parody versions of them that they have in the comic book, because they can't use the actual rights.
Right.
Get like these heroes that kind of look like them. They're both, like, in an old folks' home, and they used to be on a TV show where they were superheroes. And, like, then, like, one of the villains goes there, like, every day to see them and stuff. And, like, there's, like, a great thing where, like, one of the supervillains has, like, one of the capes from the superheroes that was his greatest enemy, like, just in tatters on his wall, and it's supposed to be Superman's cape, and you're like, oh, fuck. Yeah, it's really, really great. The comic book's just so dope. Yeah, it was just good.
But, I mean, Angelina Jolie curves a bullet, bro. Like, come on, man.
Curving the bullet's great, but that was, like, the curving the bullet's, like, the least cool part about the comic book. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Dude, there's so many scenes where, like, superheroes are just fighting and they're just getting their heads exploded. It's great. There was, like, a scene where, like, because, like, the dad is like the best superhero, like the most, like, the badass assassin in the world, and he fucks this chick and she gets pregnant, and then, like, he leaves her, and then he comes back to visit, like, while he's invisible, just to see how she's raising him.
Yeah.
And he, like, gets his ass beat in a fight, and he doesn't fight back as a kid, and he was like, that was the day I knew I fucked up. You know what I mean? He was like, you didn't even fight back. Your mom was just like, you did the right thing, Billy. And he was like, I fucking hate that bitch. It was great.
Okay, well, let me see if I can impress this upon you. Part of the reason why I wanted to talk about that with you is because at the very beginning of what I did with Jay, I picked X-Men 3, which was one that hurt deep in my soul because I love the X-Men. And to see it bastardized in such a harmful way, it cut me. It cut me bad. And so Jay was good about it, but he starts off the podcast being like, hey, well, Raph,
great impression of Jay.
How would you call yourself a comic book nerd? I don't know your proclivities, if you would. And I was like, first of all, howdy doody, what the fuck are you? No, that's not how this works. You have more glasses than I do. So on a scale of nerd, I'm still like a little bit up here.
Yeah, the glasses ratio is different.
Yeah, it's a very different one. Mine definitely looks like a little bit more relaxed. Yours looks like, hey kid, give me your lunch money. So when he's asking me that, I was like, oh no, I have to explain to a civilian why the Dark Phoenix saga is such a stab in the heart.
It was such a good comic book saga that it was like it deserved more than 3 shitty movies and some background plot.
Well, to be fair, what I told him was it brought me 2 things. One, it became fan service the movie when they did It's the Juggernaut Bitch, which was the first time I remembered a meme having that much control over a major movie blockbuster where we're like, we're building to it. We're going to give these fucking nerds what they want.
The 6th wall.
Yeah. And I said, and 2, Insanity is doing the same thing twice. And they gave Simon Kinberg a second chance to do Dark Phoenix all these years later, and they fucked it up again. And so I told him, I was like, the reason why I want to do this movie with you is because not only is it a bad movie, but it's as if they said, all right, well, you didn't like Ghostbusters 2. So for Ghostbusters 3, we're just going to redo Ghostbusters 2. And saying, cool, that's a smart idea.
Yeah. It was bad, man. They even did that with Wolverine or Logan when they do his origin story. Mm-hmm. They turn the whole comic book, into the first 5 minutes of a film, and I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, again, but the only thing it did save me from is in the future when X-Men Apocalypse and Dark Phoenix were really bad. I was at least in the movie theater just going, ah, fuck it. Yeah, all right. Just
Yeah,
just fuck me then.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Just get it over with.
Just and my wife has gotten so good at it now. She just kind of like she'll watch it with me and be like, "I'm so sorry, babe," and I'm like, just,
Yeah, like it's like watching my football team lose.
exactly. Let me ask this: what was the experience like going on Rogan, man? Because obviously that's somebody huge in my realm of MMA.
Mhm.
You know, all the nerds want to love him in that sport. But what was that experience like? Because that's the nod as a comic to a wide audience.
Oh, it was. I say like way too much. Uh, it was a fun podcast. It was very nerve wracking because it's the goat. You know, it's the dude. It was just it was a lot of fun. I wanted to pick his brain about comedy. It was so interesting because it was like I didn't want to like. It's so weird how you move when you're there because you're just in the seat. You know, all these people. It's just you just he's great at making you feel comfortable and like talk. And I don't know. I just didn't want to be stupid. I just didn't want to sound like an idiot. You know, just those stuff. Um, but it was great, man. I let him lead the conversation. You see how many people get to go back and do it, and it's just just being on and being funny. But it was just I took it more just like really just having a good conversation with him about comedy and stuff. So it was great, man. I felt like I learned a lot. But man, was it like, dude? It was like a roller coaster.
I like to tell people, and again, I haven't been on, so I don't know, but I know that I feel like it's the reverse version of going on Johnny Carson, where it's
Oh yeah,
like when you go on Johnny Carson, you need a good 5, and that was your thing. Now on Joe Rogan, you need a good 3 hour. So you're like, what? Okay, hour two, I'm gonna bring up aliens.
I hit like 240, and I was like, thank God. I think I hit 220. I don't know. Dude, if you do like an hour 45, you're like, oh God, I fucked up.
Right.
Someone did an hour 30. I was like,
I mean, the comparable experience that I've had is Joey Diaz is a friend in the realm of jiu-jitsu and comedy, and he invites me on his podcast, and the whole time I'm sitting there, I'm just like, I don't want to talk. I want to talk to you. Let me host. You do your thing. Like you're a microcosm of comedy that just can burst and be that energy. And for me, I feel like when I see Rogan do it, I want to be like, no, I don't want to go on a show like that. I want to interview him. Fuck that. I'm going to
yeah,
literally just turn it around and be like, Joe, listen, dude, that's really nice. And I appreciate you. And it's very lovely. But let's talk about some DMT. All right.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how I couldn't do that.
He's a great dude. Very nice. Cool as fuck, dude. It was like, yeah, dude, he's dope.
That's awesome, dude. And I'm so happy that that experience is one that has high replay value too. So I'm sure you get people who listen to that, after the fact, on a replay, and then randomly you get something. I'm sure that's just like, "Hey, bro, I loved you on there," and you're like, "Bro, it's been
I
like."
still get people that show up to shows I do that are like, I saw you on Rogan.
Oh,
I'm so
that's
stoked.
dope.
I'm like, oh fuck. And afterwards, I did it. He was like, "You're gonna have people that come all the time, so you're gonna have to keep writing jokes." I was like, "Fuck, okay."
Whatever. You get everything you want, and you're just like,
Yeah. Like, ah!
I love that, dude. That's amazing. Well, what has been this? Because we talked scratched a little bit of the surface of what people are doing. Now that we don't have to go to a comedy club every night, what have you been doing outside of now that you've got that time of not going to comedy clubs and being at your house? Have you built a skill or a trait or anything that you've been like, oh, now I suddenly pot plants? Like, what do you do?
I got a rash on my dick. No, I masturbate a lot. I finished Pornhub, all 700,000 pages of it. I've been playing a lot of video games, smoking a lot of weed. But I started the podcast studio. Just trying to clean more and just be a good husband. My wife is still working, so she comes home and she's like, "All right, you gonna get up or what's going on?
I
You
was
still have pajamas?"
I was explaining to somebody, and I don't know if this is you feel this way too, but I've been trying to clean up my house. We've been on quarantine for this fifth, sixth week, and I still am not done. Like, I'm
No,
still like trying to organize like a subsection per every couple days. And I was like, how could I have even done this without a quarantine? Like, how
oh,
bad
absolutely.
is this been one of those things where I said, like, listen, I want to try and clean this closet, and that's going to be a 2-day expenditure to at least get it to look like a real person's version of it.
Yeah. First 3 days, I was like, babe, I have nothing to do. My wife's like, you can clean. And I was like, fuck. She was like, if you do one thing a day, we will have a very nice house. And I was like, okay.
Well, again, it's building, good building blocks. It's getting you there. Video games. What video games are you playing right now?
I've been playing a lot of PUBG, Call of Duty Warzone, UFC 3. Frostpunk is one of my
Hold on.
favorites.
Did you say UFC 3?
Yes.
Okay. Who are you playing on that game?
Oh, I just do career mode, and I just go through and just fuck around.
So you're kind of like building your own character from that?
Yeah. Absolutely.
So, again, I have to ask for the Roganites that we have for the nice crossover MMA people. That means that you're then seeing all these people that you go, oh, they fight for a living, but I'm sorry, GSP, I gotta crush you, man. My career is on the line here.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm like, my 2 sticks of defeat, I'm gonna ruin. This is the only time I'm able to submit fucking TJ Dillashaw. It is.
Well, here's the good news. If it was truly like in real life, he would get caught with steroids. So you're not too far off. You might win by a technicality.
Yeah. I started a chick in the lowest weight class, and she just murdered everybody. Just fucking hip tossing everybody, just knees to the face.
That's amazing. What is giving you the most pleasure though of those? Like, what has been the best video game? Like, what can you zone out and you go, shit, it's really late. I can't believe I stayed up playing this.
Frostpunk for sure. It's like a resource city builder simulation.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to. You're all around a generator that generates heat, and there's different layers and stuff. And you're in the winter, and there's constant storms, so the temperature is always dropping, and you got to give people proper insulation, all this jazz. It's real fun. Just gets harder and harder. It's really like if certain people start dying, then your workforce gets depleted, then you don't make as much resources, and then it's a slippery slope. Everyone gets sick, and then you got like 5 people that need to like get coal, metal, and also food, and then everyone's dead, and then it's great. It's a slippery slope, and I love it.
Bro, this is what you're using right now to get your mind off of COVID? Like,
Yeah. Where I'm like, oh, it could be much worse. I could be cold.
I just can't help but think of like everybody's worried about their jobs, and you're like, yo, simulation today wasn't going good. We had to let 5 people go. Didn't feel good about it.
Yeah, I killed a city today.
I love it. That's amazing. Yeah, because again, now that I have that time, I keep staring at these video games and I keep being like, man, I don't normally have the time to, but I guess if I like put on pants today and that's a win, then I get video games.
I have a PS4, and I was not a PS4 guy, so now I'm starting to. I could see all the PS4 exclusives that are on sale, and it's like I could go through and just knock them all down.
Hey man, whatever is helping you keep and navigate, I think that is a great thing. Well, sir, I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I want to ask you here, if you wouldn't mind, go ahead and give us some plugs. Tell people where they can find you, where they can expect to find you very soon, because I think that's going to be an important thing. Because again, people are craving content right now. So if you're putting out podcasts, you're putting out entertainment for people. Tell them where they can watch it, man.
Absolutely. You can. All my stuff's going to be posted to my main platform, which is Instagram, Frank Castillo. I'm also on Twitter, Frank C Comedy, and Roast Battle for all of our Roast Battle stuff. And yep, so. I'm going to be starting pushing those podcasts out because I'm doing absolutely nothing during the day.
I mean, here's the good news is the Sriracha Bong definitely is very happy that you've got the time to kill. But Frank, as I've been rounding up interviews with people, I've been asking people at the very end to tell us what is your best advice for surviving this pandemic and keeping sane during it.
Marijuana for sure has been the thing keeping me going. Because anytime I'm just like, oh my god, this shit sucks, I'll smoke some weed and be like, oh, this actually isn't that bad. I'm gonna go like clean or do something, and it takes my mind off of worrying about how terrible all this is.
And I would be remiss if I wasn't to compliment the amazing doggy style t-shirt that you have there. Jesus Christ. This is ODB. God damn, son. This is some of the best you know.
Yeah, I got a lot of good. I got a lot of good T-shirts.
Well, sir, it has been amazing to get to know you. I'm so glad. I mean, here's the thing, dude. Obviously, Roast Battle speaks for itself, but I always like when I know friends of friends, so it doesn't take me long to say, like, yeah, that guy's cool. Like, if you're good with Jay, and I think the world of him, and he wants to spend time and do things with you, then I want to spend time and talk to you.
Hell yeah.
So, I appreciate your time. Ladies and gents, we'll be right back after this. All right. That's going to do it for us here at Early Late Night. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we're learning as we go. So hopefully next time we'll have some sort of knowledge on if we're airing live or not. Stay tuned. Be safe.